Alright, I've never made a YouTube video, so we'll give this a try. A couple of you were asking on YouTube about how to change the oil in your Onan generator on your Wagon Tails van. So we've got a 2014 ProMaster, that's the Ultra trim level for Wagon Tails, and we're going to go through how to change the oil. Some things you're going to need, and then some things that could be helpful. Obviously you're going to need oil, an oil filter, something to dump the old oil in, a bunch of paper towels, and then here's some things that'll be helpful. I'll link all of this in the description. You can buy it or not, it's up to you. But a 3/8" ratchet, 6" extension, an oil filter wrench, flashlight's helpful, and then this handy little doodad found at an estate sale. And conveniently, like up to about the line is 1 quart, and these generators take 2 quarts of oil. I'll list our model number of our generator and the service manual to let you know. You may have different models or different generators or different types or whatever, but I'll list what all this applies to. The process for changing oil is going to be about the same for, let's say, almost all of your Onan generators, but your oil filter number is going to be different. The type of oil it takes might be different, but we'll figure that out at the end. So let's get started. All right, first thing you're going to do, open up the back of your van. Sorry, that was probably a little quick. I'll do that a little slower. Come down here. I'm sure most of you know where your generator hides. There's this little doodad. Flip your lever. And then you've got your cover. Turn both of those. Pull that off on either side. And set this cover over there for now. So, apologize it's dirty. It's a little older. I actually just had it out not too long ago. We're working on an Onan 7000 HGJAE 2132 Spec L. So it's a pretty common generator for most of your Wagon Tails. Our 2015 Dyna has a similar one, except it's a Spec LM, Spec M maybe. It's a little newer. But first thing you want to do, or at least a technique, is go ahead and start your generator. It's going to get loud, so I'll hang on to that for a second. Start your generator, let it run for a minute, 2, 3, 4 minutes, whatever. You don't want it to run too long, then the oil gets hot, you burn yourself. That kind of sucks. But when you start your generator and run it, warm it up, the oil flows a little more fluidly. Gets a little more oil out, makes the job go a little bit quicker. You can do it without your generator sits overnight. You can leave it sit there overnight, come change your oil, and it's just going to pour out a little slower because it's colder. So I like to run it for a couple minutes and then drain it out. So here we go. Usually starts a little better. We'll let that oil for a couple minutes. I'll come talk to you when the generator's off. Alright. Ran for about a minute or two. That's good enough. So, just some common components so we can know what we're looking at here. Obviously, oil cap. Pretty much most of you have seen that, or at least hopefully, because you're supposed to be checking it daily, I believe is what the owner's manual said, but we'll go back and check that later. So you want to unscrew that to start. Got oil in it, probably a little low because about a week overdue on our oil change. Air filter box, start stop button, carburetors behind there. None of that's important for this job, but you at least need to take this off. And I guess the thing that is important for this job is your dump valve. So you're going to take this cap off, leave it sitting there, and we're going to be dealing with this here in a second. So changing your oil isn't overly difficult. You're just draining oil, stopping it, changing your filter, removing it, putting a new one in, filling it back up with oil, and you're going about your day. But there are certain things you need to look for when you're changing your oil that could indicate you're about to have a serious problem or that you're about to mess something up. pretty horribly. It's nothing to worry about. It's a simple process. You just need to know what you're looking for. So to start off, you've got your drain pan. Something to collect the oil, could be anything. If you don't want to go buy one of these, like I said, I'll link something cheap. It's nothing special. If you don't want to buy one, the next time you go to the hardware store or Walmart or Advanced or the auto parts store or whatever, and you buy a gallon jug of windshield washer fluid, just hang on to that, cut the top off of it, and you can collect your oil in there. You really don't need to buy anything special or expensive for this. But you're going to want to place it under the van. Like I said, this is your drain valve. So about in line where that drain valve is, put your pan under there. It's really just a guess. A giant piece of cardboard is super handy. If you're doing it on concrete, you don't want to get oil on your concrete. If you're on gravel and you don't really care, you can leave the cardboard out. But all you're going to do is just take this and spin it. Counterclockwise if you're staring at the end of it. You're going to come down here and you're going to wait for oil to start dripping out. Keep spinning it. Look, there you go. Center it up. And then you wait. What you can do is, if you got a flashlight, come over here, grab that, because I forgot to take that with us. Take your flashlight, and now we're going to get into the some of the things I was talking about a minute ago about, you're just removing and putting oil in, but there's certain things you want to look for. So certain things you want to look for. Come under here, I'm sorry about the noise, I'm sure that's going to be annoying, but you want to look at your oil. Yeah, that looks a little weird, but you're looking for anything shiny, any chunks, metallic looking. If your oil is, I'd say, like reflective, it indicates wear on metal pieces, which some of this may be. Obviously don't do what I'm about to do, because it's probably not good for your health, but you're looking for any metal in there. Is the first. All right, I'm an impatient human being, but I've sat here for probably 5 to 7 minutes letting this oil drain out. I don't recommend it, but you make a cocktail, it makes the time go a little easier. So next step, come down here and look at your oil. When it's gotten to the point where it's just a little drip or a little drizzle, you can go ahead and close your drain valve. So tighten that. Doesn't need to be super ridiculously over tightened. Latex gloves come in handy. Don't need them. If you want to keep your hands clean, yeah, sure, get a pair. But that's draining the oil. So step one's easy. Run the generator for 1 to 2 to 3 minutes if you want. Take your cap off. Put your cardboard or your concrete saver, whatever the hell you got, an old carpet, anything, put it down. Put your clean drain pan down so that you can inspect for any debris or anything that shouldn't be in your oil once you're done. And then once that's under there, about in line with your drain valve, about 6 inches to a foot in from the edge of your bumper, rotate this drain valve counterclockwise. Sit there, wait till it stops draining. Rotate the valve clockwise to close it. Just give it a little snug. You don't need to crank on it. You'll break it. Make a difficult time for yourself next time you go change oil. So what we're going to do now is remove the filter. I'll show you that you can try to do it by hand. Got a couple parts that I'm going to list in the description that'll make this job a little bit easier. I think like 30-40 bucks in these 2 parts right here, 3 parts right there. It'll make your life a little bit more simple. So we'll come under here and we'll take a look. Ignore the fact that it's dirty under here because it's a little bit of an older van, but we'll see what we can do here. So I can't see what you're looking at. Hopefully, not hopefully, maybe if these videos take off, we'll buy a better camera and we'll do some better videos. But as you're looking under your van, ignore this. That was a mod that I did that we're still waiting to see how it turns out. But this hose underneath your Onan is where the oil was draining out. There's your oil filter, and I don't remember what that is, but that's not important right now. Here's your fuel filter if you're curious as to what that is. Sorry I flipped you off. It's an aftermarket one. I didn't buy Onan, so for now it's working pretty good, but we'll see how that lasts. But we're doing an oil change video, so all we care about is the oil filter. So as you can see, it's kind of grimy. Let me get a video, let me get some light on it. It's kind of grimy. It's probably going to be slippery. I probably over tightened it, so like, yeah, I'm not going to fight with that. So I'm going to go get my handy dandy little tool. Stupid lantern flies that are hanging all over me. So we'll come down here and we'll hang out together. So what I've got is 3/8 inch ratchet, a 3/8 6-inch extension, and a cheap knockoff oil filter wrench for the Onan generators. All you're going to do is take your 6-inch extension, put it in the hole, lock it in there. And you're going to take your ratchet. You may have to push the button on the bottom. Push the button on the bottom, slide that up on there. I'm sure most of you have heard this, but righty-tighty, lefty-loosey. So as you're turning it, make sure that the wrench loosens it and then ratchets it on the way back. Righty-tighty, lefty-loosey, counterclockwise is also the direction you're going to try to remove this in. So we'll get you lined up, which I think you're about looking at the oil filter somewhere in there. Again, I apologize. If we keep doing this, we'll get a better camera. So you're going to you're going to place your oil filter wrench up on your oil filter. Apply some upward pressure, and you're going to start to rotate. These oil filter wrenches are made for different sizes, so as long as you keep applying upward force, it shouldn't slip. If it slips, you'll feel like a little ratchet. It'll be hard to push, and then it'll slip, and it'll be really easy for a second, and then it'll catch. Just keep applying upward force on it, and slowly rotate it counterclockwise. At some point, it's going to get easier to turn. You can remove the wrench, and you can start to remove it by hand. If you want, at this point, you can wiggle your filter wrench back and forth. Make sure you've got your drain pan lined up because some oil might leak out, and just rotate it till it wants to fall off. Be careful because this is full of oil and you'll dump it all over yourself and it'll be a mess. So, come down here, you want to dump that out and put it in there. We'll deal with that later. So, next thing you want to do while you're down here, like I said before, sorry, I got some makeshift little stand thing going on right now. You want to check your oil quality as it's coming out. You're looking for any metal, anything shiny. The next thing you want to do is where you just removed your oil filter from. You want to look up there and look at the mating surface on the generator itself. So you're going to look up there, you're going to see metal. Look for any nicks, scratches, gouges, anything like that, because there is a gasket on here that obviously if the metal that it's tightening to is gouged or cracked or nicked or anything like that, you're going to leak oil, and nobody wants to leak oil. So what you're going to do, I apologize for the disorientation, but you're going to look up in there where that oil is dripping out, and you're just going to see it's smooth, clean, cracks, nicks, gouges, anything like that. That one looks fine. It's going to be a little dirty. Oh, look at that. Got some oil on the screen. I apologize. Maybe as I do this a little more, we'll become a little more professional. But now we're going to come out from under the van. So we've got the oil filter removed. Next step is going to be installing the new one. I'll talk about this a little more in the end, but I don't use the Onan OEM filters. I think they're like 36 bucks a piece on Amazon, and we have 2 vans, and your oil change interval I think is 150 hours. Again, at the end of the video I'll go through all of that, but we do that in about a month. So I basically do 2 oil changes a month, one on each van, and that'd come out to like $800 to $1,000 a year just in oil filters if I was buying the OEM stuff. To your generator, obviously the manufacturer Onan recommends you use their stuff. Any certified mechanic's going to tell you to use Onan stuff. I'm not, but we'll talk about that later. So next step would be to just reinstall your oil filter. I apologize if you can't see. I'm trying to aim this the best I can. I think that's about the general area, so I'll move this over. 10W30, that's the oil I'm putting in. Summertime I was running 10W40. We'll talk about oil viscosity towards the end. But all you're going to do at this point, take your lid off. I bought this little guy. There's a quart of oil. Top this off. This just makes life easy. You don't need it. If you just buy 2 1-quart jugs from Advanced, you can do the same thing. But take that. Now we're just going to fill up the oil filter straight down the middle of it. You'll come all the way up to the top, and it'll overflow. Just a second. You sit there. It'll keep going back down. There's fibers or whatever the hell's inside of an oil filter that it'll suck it up a little bit. So take your time and get as much in here as you can, because it'll make the next step a little bit easier. Like I said before, I'm a little impatient, so we'll get how much ever we're going to get in here and then just screw the thing off. Throw a little more. And it's good enough for government work. So one key important step here, you can use old oil, you can use new oil, you can take a rag, use your finger if you got gloves on. You get your finger a little wet, rub it around the gasket. Helps it from binding up on itself, rotates a little easier, and saves your gasket. So we'll talk again once we're under the van. All right, welcome back. Got distracted. Our other van showed up, but you don't care about that because we're changing oil. So what we've got is our oil filter that we filled up with oil a couple minutes ago. Dipped our finger in there, wiped that around the O-ring, and now we're going to put it back in. Some things to look out for here. You don't want to cross-thread this. That would be a huge pain in the ass to fix, and probably wouldn't be able to do it in your driveway. So when you're screwing this on, it should spin on several rotations very easy. If once you start to put it on, you start to spin it clockwise, righty-tighty, you're met with some resistance. Stop, unscrew it, take it back off, try again. You might have it cross-threaded, and that would be a huge pain. So I'll get you set back up. We'll look up here. I think you're about looking in that area somewhere. It's where our oil filter came from. It's where our new one's going back in. So if you want, you can clean up this area because you don't want any debris to get down in there. Good enough with it. So you're going to shove it up in there. As you can see, the O-ring, the seal, weather seal on this one's pretty well shot. I don't care enough to replace it at this point. But you're just going to push it up slowly until you meet some resistance, and you're going to start to spin. I said it's spinning pretty easy. There's about one rotation. There's 2 rotations. And it's very easy. If it's any more difficult than that, for the first 2 or 3 full spins, it's cross-threaded. Take it off. Try it again. So now, like I said, you don't need the tool that I had earlier. All you want to do is just grab this and just go hand tight. But depends on who the last person that did your oil change is. If they cranked it on there, then you may need that tool to get it off. And if you have that tool and you want to use it to tighten it down, you can. Just put it back on there, flip your lever so that now you're in a tightening direction. Slide that back up on there and just give it a, I went hand tight, and then I went about a half turn past hand tight, and that's all it takes. You don't need to cram these things on there. You don't need to hulk them on there. It's just going to cause you more problems if you do. Just snug is perfectly fine. And now that's it. You just unscrew it, take the old one out, fill the new one with oil, fill the new one with oil, put the new one on there, go hand tight till it gets a little snug. If you have the tool, you can take the tool and just go like another half turn past hand tight. If you don't have the tool, just snug it up with your hands the best you can, and we'll move on to the next step, which is just filling it back up with oil. Welcome again. So, like I said before, bought this handy dandy little doodad. About full is 1 quart of oil. These generators take 2, depending on your model. Verify that it takes 2. So we filled it up there. We use that much just to fill up the filter, which means it's that much less that we need to put in the engine itself, which is the next pain. So, see if I can't get you set up so you can see. Hopefully you can, because I can't see what you can. But there's where the dipstick was. Take that out, set it down. You'll wipe it off before you put it back in. Now you're going to do is fill your oil back up. I will grab a light here in a second once I go to refill this, and I will show you how much of a pain this is about to be. Nothing overly complicated. First quart goes in pretty quick, but the second quart is just, it keeps wanting to like overflow on you, and you think it's full, and then you might want to stop, but you need to get the 2 quarts in there. If you don't get the 2 quarts in there, it'll look like it's full oil. You'll show up at your next appointment tomorrow. You'll start the generator. It might run for a little bit, and then it's going to shut down on you and start causing problems. And the reason it shut down is because of, I think it's low oil pressure. And that low oil pressure is caused by a low oil level. So like I said, the first quart went quick. Here you go. That thing's empty. Now all we're going to do is refill that. Fortunately, I probably should have refilled that on the cardboard instead of the concrete, because now I'm going to have an oil ring. But if you've got an oil ring, some Dawn dish soap, just completely saturate it in Dawn dish soap and just leave it there until the next time it rains, and the rain will wash it away and it should be gone. But what you're going to look at down in that hole there, if I can't block your view, looks like there's oil in there. However, it's going to take another full quart, and the whole time it's going to try to spill out and be a huge pain, but you just got to have some patience, because it will take this full second quart. So kind of hard to do with 2 hands. So let me get the spout in there, and then we'll come back and talk in a second. All right, we're working on the second quart of oil. This one's going to go slow. I like this little jug and spout over a funnel, because you can actually see down in there. So the first third of this quart's going to go pretty quick, and then you're going to see where if you fill it up too quickly, it's going to want to start to just like drip out on you, and at that point you think it's full, but it's actually not. So this second quart probably takes a good 5 minutes. I don't know if you can see it's starting to come up the threads there a little bit. So you have to pour this pretty slow. If you start to pour it just a little too quick, it'll come all the way up. Gotta stop, pause for a second, and then just keep on going. But I'll be back with you here in about 5 minutes, and we'll finish this up. All right, 5 minutes later, second quart's finally in. It's a huge pain, especially towards the end. You have to like just ridiculously slow pour this thing in there. Otherwise, you make a mess. That's what paper towels are for. You're gonna get oil everywhere. It's not gonna hurt anything. Don't freak out. Just throw some paper towels up there. Grab another one. Wipe it out the best you can. A little bit of oil sitting there, it's not gonna hurt anything. Just the better you can clean it up, the easier it's going to be to identify actual issues later on. So you clean up the best you can. You come back in a couple days, you take the cover off, you go to check the oil level, and now all of a sudden there's oil there. Obviously that wasn't there before. You might have an issue, but these things are pretty good about seeping oil, especially when they're hot. So, sorry, I got a little sidetracked there. Happens. We filled that up a second time, dumped it in here. Now what you're going to do, since I dropped that on the ground, I'm going to set you back up for a second. Sorry, I don't have the proper equipment to be making YouTube videos, but yeah, we'll see what happens in the future. Wipe your dipstick off, get all your dog fur and dirt and whatever else may be on there. Clean it up. Stick it in there. Screw it on if you can. And before you start it, first thing you want to do is look underneath. Now there's one drip. One drip's going to happen. But make sure you don't have a bunch of oil pouring out underneath there. As you're filling it with oil, make sure you're looking under the van to make sure you're not just dumping oil out. Because it's happened to many people, including professional mechanics, that you open your drain valve, drain your oil, and you get in a hurry, you get distracted, and you forget to close this, and then you start filling it up with oil, and all you're doing is just dumping your oil on the ground. So, you made sure that was tight before, put your cap on, and you're just going to start your generator. Starts a little easier the second time. So you're going to let it sit here and run for 10, 15, 20, 30 seconds, just enough to circulate some of the oil. And you're going to shut it down. We'll get you set back up. Now all you're going to do is just take your cap off and we're going to check the oil. So pull your cap off. Dip it out, take a clean portion of your rag, wipe your dipstick off, stick it back in there. Pull it out and you want to read it. You want your oil level to be full. These things are quite picky. You want that to be as close to the full line as you possibly can. And if you look down in here, you'll see a bunch of air bubbles, and I don't know if I'm going to be able to get it on video, but there's really only like 3 or 4 threads shown, so that's pretty close to the top. So like, just looking at it, you're like, wow, man, that's overfilled. But in all reality, it's actually exactly where it's supposed to be. So, there you go, that's it. We'll get some of this mess cleaned up. We'll talk about some other things you need to look for, and if you look on your air filter cover, it'll tell you air filter part number, oil filter part number. If you just punch that number into Amazon, 1220836, you'll see I think it's called like Onan green label. You'll see some Onan OEM green label. It's a green box. They're like $30 some a piece. That's your Onan OEM oil filters. You want to use those, use those. If you want to scroll down a little more, you'll see an all black oil filter that says like replaces 1220836. And I buy the $20 2-pack, so they come out to $10 a piece. We've been in business for a year. I do oil changes monthly. I've been using those $10 all black replacement oil filters for the last year. It's up to you. It's your generator. Professionals are going to tell you to use OEM. It fills my truck that goes 5,000 to 7,000 miles in between oil changes. I absolutely use the high-end oil filter, most expensive thing I can buy. Generator in the back of the van that gets its oil changed once a month. Personally, I'm fine buying the cheap Chinese knockoff, whatever it is. But back to this cover. Look at this cover. You'll see oil filter. That's the part number you can punch in on the internet and order your oil filters. Oil filter capacity, 2 quarts when you do an oil change, and also change the oil filter. Over on this side is what type of oil you should be using. So, but in the summertime, like I said, it gets up to 80s and 90s around us, and then you got to figure this box gets super hot as well. You want to try to find 15W40 oil. We're getting into winter and fall right now, so temperatures are starting to drop. We're going to start getting colder mornings and Granted, this is only a month because I'm going to do an oil change here in another month, but for this month I put 10W30 in this generator. Yeah. Pay attention to what your temperature is going to be outside for the next month or the next 150 hours, however long you're going to run this generator in between oil changes, and make sure you select the right oil. Pick one out. Doesn't need to be anything special. I don't know what the hell I did with it. Valvoline, doesn't matter. The type of, the brand of oil, again, doesn't matter. Valvoline, Pennzoil, Advanced Auto sells Fram now, I think. So you can actually get the oil on Amazon too. I'll link that in the description. They just ship it right to your house in a box, and then it's in a plastic bag. You can get the oil filter wrench, extension, ratchet, everything you need to do an oil change. You can get it on Amazon. If you don't like Amazon, use Google. See how good my editing skills are. Alright. I don't know how good that's going to look. I really wish I could see myself. Might have to buy a new camera if y'all want to see more videos. Wife gets mad at me. I got oil all over the Yeti. Oil changes, pretty simple process. I've already shown it. You can rewind back through, put your stuff down, unwind, drain the oil, tighten your valve, remove your oil filter, fill your new oil filter up, screw on your new oil filter, fill it up with oil, start it, run it for 20 seconds, shut it down, check your oil level. It's got to be close to that full level if it's. But I'm dragging on and I'm just continuing to talk. So that's how you change the oil in a 7,000 watt Onan generator. If you got any questions, leave them in the comments. If you found this helpful, like it. If you don't like it, thumbs down. If you want to see something else, I removed the generator from this fan about 2 weeks ago and had to do a bunch of work on it and replace the fuel filter. So if there's something you want to see, I may not be able to get to it right away. I may be able to make a video to direct you in an area, or maybe we'll take a look at that one way there in the back. And that's partly disassembled. It was all put together, but I ended up tearing parts off of that one to put onto this one to get this one back on the road a little quicker. So, got any questions? Leave them below. See you next time.